Hello, hopefully you got on well with the video format yesterday. Today's lesson is going to continue in a similar format, so if you want to skip around, you're finding parts quite easy, I've included the timings for each section on Show My Homework. So today's lesson is going to be on calculating the mean, specifically from a list of data. Okay, so the next lesson is going to be looking at data in tables, but today's lesson is focusing purely on lists of data. Just to highlight also, there's going to be an exit ticket which I need you to submit at the end of this lesson. So please, wherever you're getting to, if you're getting towards the end of your hour, allow 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the lesson, just to make sure that you can complete that question and submit it on Show My Homework, because I'll mark that and I'll use it to feed any future adjustments to my lessons. Okay, so the do now question is recapping what we did from yesterday's lesson. So we've got 9 people who take a test. Their scores out of 100 are 56, 79, 77, 48, 90, 68, 79, 92 and 71. And what I would like you to do is work out the mode, median and range of these scores. So just see if you can remember what to do, but you should have some notes and you can look at those as well to help you complete this. So if you're doing this from the video, I would pause the video now and work through this question. Okay, so the answer to the do now question is here. So remember, yesterday we worked hard on putting our data first of all in order of smallest to biggest. So if we do this, our data is going to look like this, and this will help us look quite quickly at what the mode, median and range are. So the mode is 79, this occurs twice in our list. The median is 77. If we cross off pairs on either end of our list, we end up with 77 left in the middle. And our range, our biggest minus our smallest value, 92 minus 48 is 44. So just pause the video, make sure you're clear on that method before you move on. Okay, so we're really focusing on how to calculate the mean today. The mean is our third type of average. Remember, the range is a measure of spread. It's not officially an average, but we do use it to comment on data. So the mean. The mean's easy to calculate. All you do is add up all the numbers you've got and then divide by how many numbers there are. You may remember this from previous years in school. If you don't worry, we're going to spend lots of time with it today. Okay, in other words, it's the sum divided by the count. This is the really important part, so please pause the video and make some notes so that you have this formula, the bit in red, written down. The mean is the sum of all the terms, all pieces of data, divided by, that's what that line means, by the number of terms. Really important, so pause the video, note this down now. Right, we're going to use an example. On the left, we've got some data, and we're going to calculate the mean from it. So our first step is to add up all the numbers. So if we do this, we add 2, 4, 5, 6 and 13, and we get a total of 30. And this forms the top part of our equation. Part 2, we count how many numbers there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in our list. And then we divide our total of our numbers by how many there are. So 30 divided by 5, and you get an answer of 6. This means the mean of this data set is 6. So before you do your turn, just pause the video if you need to and make some notes. Make sure you've got that example copied down, because the next one is going to replicate that exact method. Okay, so your turn is on the right. We have an additional piece of data. You can use a calculator for this, and you may end up with a decimal, and that's perfectly fine. So just pause the video and work through the question on the right now. Okay, so hopefully you've worked through that question now. You may have got an answer you're not sure about, so let's have a look and see what we end up with. So step 1, add up all the numbers. It's our same list as on the left, except we've got an additional piece of data, 20, and we get a total of 50 this time. Step 2, we count how many numbers there are. It's one more than before, and that means there are 6 pieces of data, 6 numbers in our list. And then we're going to divide the total by how many numbers there are. So we're going to divide our 50 by 6. And this will give us either, you could write it as a fraction, top heavy, 25 over 3, or you could write it as a mixed number, 8 1/3, or you might get this number in your calculator, 8.3. And if you have a scientific calculator, you might end up with a little dot above the 3. And what that means is 3 are recurring, okay? And that's perfectly okay. You have got the right answer. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is work through these questions. They do increase in difficulty. You can use a calculator and you're just going to follow that method that we just went through. What I would like you to do, if you have some paper, is write down your workings before you put your calculation into your calculator, just so you get used to using that formula. If you're working from the video, I would pause it now and just work through the questions at your own pace. Okay, so hopefully you've worked through those questions. Mark your work, pause the video now if you need to, so you can check those. There are some decimals and negative numbers in questions 13, 14 and 15. With your negative numbers, when you're adding up negative numbers, you basically end up taking them away from each other, but hopefully that's worked okay if you're using your calculator. For question 15, 12 to the power of 2 means 12 times 12, so actually you're adding 144, and then 16 squared, and so on. So you're squaring those numbers first, then adding them, and then dividing by how many there are. So a little bit trickier there at the end. Okay, so hopefully you've got quite confident calculating the mean from a list of data. What we're going to do now is work through an example where we're given the mean and we've got a piece of data missing from our original data set. Now there might be a number of ways that you go about doing this. I'm going to show you one method. If you have a slightly different one and it still works, that's absolutely fine, okay? The important thing is you have something that you understand. So we're going to start by copying down the example as I go. So if you need to pause the example and rewind this a little bit just so you can get everything down, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so we have 5, 1, 10, something. And if we add all of those numbers up, including the something, and divide by how many there are, we get a mean of 6. So the way I'm going to work out what's missing is like this. First of all, I'm going to count how many numbers there are in our list, and that includes the question mark. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, including our question mark. So if we multiply our mean by how many numbers there are in our list, 6 times 4 is 24. So whatever those numbers are, whatever that missing number is in our list, when we add all of those up, it's going to equal 24. So this helps us calculate the missing number. So next, what we're going to do is take that 24 and we're going to take away the numbers in our list that we already know. So we're going to take away from 24, 5, 1 and 10, and we're left with 8. And that means the missing number is going to be 8. Now you can check this. You can add together 5 and 1 to get 6. And then if you add 10, you get 16. And if you add another 8, you get 24. So you can see by working back that if you add up all of those numbers together, it does indeed equal 24. So we know we've got the right answer. Now, this might be slightly tricky for you to get your head around, so please do pause it and make sure you understand before you move on. What I'm going to do now is give you an example on the right. So this is your turn. I would like you to use the same method and just see if you can replicate what I've done on the right. Just pause the video and have a go at this question now. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at that question. And whether you're successful or not, it's really important that you're writing down these examples. It's part of processing the information and it will help you have something to refer back to when you're going to work on the exercise next. Okay, so we said step 1 was count how many numbers there are. In this list of data on the right, we've got 4 numbers including our question mark again. Multiply the mean by how many numbers there are. So step 2, 4 times 6 is 24 again. And then what we're going to do is subtract the numbers we know from 24. So 24 minus 6 minus 2 minus 11 is 5, and that means our question mark, our missing number, is 5. Again, we can check that this works. We want the total of the numbers, including the question mark, to equal 24. So 6 plus 2 is 8. If we add our 11, we're going to get 19, and if we add the 5, we're going to get 24 again. So we found our missing number by following this process. So have a go at these questions now. This follows the exact method we've just gone through. There are more or less numbers. Pause the video to make sure you have enough time. You can use a calculator, but please again write down your workings first, just so you're processing that method and you're really thinking about it. Okay, so mark your work. Hopefully you had some successes with this. Pause the video if you need to before moving on. Okay, so really important that you submit this. So what I'd like you to do is complete this question. We've got a basketball team playing 8 matches. The number of points they score in total is below and in red. What I'd like you to do for this data set is work out the mean number of points scored, the mode, so we call modal, but we mean the mode, number of points, the median points scored, and the range. And then what I would like you to do is take a photo, upload that and show my homework, or email me, and details are on the system for you to do that. Okay, so if you've got through everything and you've still got time, this extension is using a bit of what we did in the previous exercise. So it's using this notion of calculating the mean to work out which numbers the letter stands for. So for example, in question 1, if you were going to add up all of the pieces of data here, so we've got 4 plus 4, which gives us 8, plus another 4 to get 12, plus another 4 to get 16, plus another 4 to get 5 is 20. Our calculation is going to be 20 divided by 5, and we can say that A equals 4. Okay, so we're working with the data, we're calculating the mean from the boxes in yellow, and in these first 2 questions it's just going to equal the letter. So B is whatever the mean is in this row here. For questions 3 and 4, we're using what we did in the previous exercise, so working out what the missing letter is. For exercise question 5, we've actually got some algebra, so you're going to need to think a little bit more about this. We're going to end up with adding 5 and 10 and 15 plus E plus another 2 lots of E, and all of that's going to equal 12. So you need to make sure that you are setting up your calculation, your formula for your mean, and then you're rearranging equations. So it's going to get a bit tricky, but just see how you get on. Okay, and the next set of questions here, so just pause the video as needed. Okay, so if you're really stuck on this question, I'm going to do a worked example so that you've got an idea of how to set this out. Okay, so if we were calculating the mean, what we are saying is it's going to be our total, and then that is divided by how many of our data pieces there are. Okay, so our total, what we can say is we've got 5 plus 10 plus E plus 15 plus 2 lots of E, and for our mean we need to divide this by how many data pieces there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fine, so I'm going to write all of that over 5, and we are told that all of that equals what's in that green box, which is 12. Okay, so all I'm going to do is simplify down what I've got so I can read it more easily. So 5 and 10, I've got 15, plus another 15 is 30. And I've got E plus 2E, which is 3E. And then all of that is still over 5, and all of that equals 12. Now, if I'm rearranging equations, the first thing I want to do is get rid of my fractions. So all of the left-hand side is divided by 5, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. this is going to leave me with 30 plus 3e on my left hand side, and on the right hand side 12 times 5 is going to be 60, and then I'm just going to rearrange this equation. So I'm going to take away 30 from both sides. I'm going to end up with 3e equals 30, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and then you're left with e equals 10. Okay, so what we're going to end up with in our data set is 10 here, because e is worth 10, and in our second part we've got 2 lots of e, so that's going to be 2 times 10, which is 20. Okay, so just mark your answers now, pause the video as you need to. Hopefully you at least got A, B, C and D. Even better if you got E. Do feel free to email me or message me on Show My Homework if you're particularly proud of some work you've done. Well done.